Good evening. It is Monday, March 23rd at 5:30 p.m., and I'd like to call this Committee of the Whole meeting of the Lansing City Council to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Carter? Here. Councilmember Garza? Here. Councilmember Hussein?
Here.
Councilmember Cost?
Here.
Councilmember Martinez?
Here.
Councilmember Navarez Martinez?
Here.
Councilmember Palivanoglu?
Present.
Councilmember Spatafor?
Present.
8 members present.
Thank you. First item of business is the March 9th minutes. Councilmember Palivanoglu.
I move the minutes of March 9th, 2026 as presented.
That is a proper motion. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Tonight, before we dive into public comment, we do have just a quick announcement. Item B, I think I let the committee know, but we are going to pass on having a vote on that this evening and just take discussion in the presentation, just for those of you that are interested in that. So first thing is public comment on agenda items. You will have up to 3 minutes to address the committee of the whole. And if you want to speak to the committee, I'm sorry, I was reading a different set of instructions. If you want to speak to the committee, please just approach the podium, state your name, and give your comment. So first come, first serve.
Loretta Stanaway, and I'm going to talk about a couple of things, but mostly about the shuffle proposed sale. I want to stress that that isn't just the sale of the building. It hasn't been extremely clear to the public, I don't think, that that includes the dedicated parkland that the building sits on. So that should be more clear in all communications and including on the proposed vote language so that the public is aware fully what they're being asked to do. I think there is an unnecessary and unfortunate rush to try and get this through to get it on the August ballot when it would be a lot more appropriate to put it on the November ballot, giving the park board time to weigh in on their decision, which they tabled at their last meeting because they had what they considered to be too many questions and not enough information. So I think it's judicious to give the park board a chance to weigh in on this before the council does any voting on this. And we need an independent, current appraisal on the value of that property, the land and the building combined, because that's what you're asking the public to sell. And if we sell that, we lose complete control over any future uses of that building, any potential buyers of that building. It could, for all we know, become the next data center or a data center in place of Deep Green if it doesn't get to go in on Kalamazoo. The proceeds cannot be dedicated to parks or even to the general fund because those are not enterprise funds. Most of the proceeds would end up going to make payments to TIFA and the general fund or the parks board, parks funds, I should say, would not be positively impacted in any meaningful way. The owner is asking essentially for us to give him relief from a self-imposed business decision that he made when he signed a loan under the terms that he signed the loan under. He's asking us to relieve him from the consequences of those actions. And he could conceivably refinance instead of asking us to sell him our dedicated parkland and our building. He could renegotiate parking terms with the city for his customers. The proposed sale price is ridiculously undervalued. And as I said, if sold, it could be used for anything. Down the line, it could become the next marijuana shop. If it were not sold and he failed in his business, at least we would still have access to the building and could reuse it for another purpose, find another buyer, and revamp it rather than having a blighted vacant enterprise. It also flies in the face of our Parks and Rec 5-year master plan. And under the old charter provisions, a sale of parkland required the funds from the sale to be reinvested either in another park or improvements in parks.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the committee?
Hello, my name is Mike Dombrowski. I've served on the park board for 7 years, including the last 2 as chair. I'm speaking today as an individual board member and not on behalf of the board. I was going to ask you and now thanking you for tabling the vote to proceed with the sale of Lansing Shuffle Building. The Parks Board has not voted on this sale, and proceeding without our input would be a serious breach of process. The board first discussed this issue at our March 11th meeting less than 2 weeks ago. Representatives from Parks Planning, LEDC, and the Lansing Shuffle made their case. At no point were we told that a council vote was imminent. We scheduled our vote for April, specifically to give board members time to gather additional input and to process what we heard at the meeting. If we had known this council vote was being rushed to the floor today, we would have acted differently. Let me be direct about the discussion the board had. Members clearly understood how this sale benefits the Lansing Shuffle as a private business. What we did not hear and what has not been demonstrated is how selling a desirable, recently updated, income-generating city asset serves the Parks Department or the taxpayers of Lansing. The board was not provided with an independent appraisal to understand what the taxpayers stand to lose by selling at the contracted price now versus waiting until the lease expires and selling at market value. That appraisal is not a formality, it is basic due diligence before disposing of a public asset. I would ask the city administration and this council to explain how they have determined that this sale benefits taxpayers, because without an appraisal, there's no factual basis for that conclusion. The Park Board is made up of volunteers who give their time to advise the city on parks matters. We take that obligation seriously. This council should too. Do not vote on the sale of this public asset before the board charged with advising you on that asset has completed its review. Please table this vote, and thank you for doing that.
Good afternoon. I'm Israel on behalf of myself today. So in a short time that the Lansing Shuffle has been, for me, it's been a go-to for a lot of things. From a personal standpoint, date night, brunch with colleagues. I think I've even held a couple interviews there for our business. A place to hang out with friends and get a drink. Also, after a long day at the office, go and get a good meal and not have to worry about cooking, which is a huge thing in my household sometimes. So with that being said, also all the way to strolling past through the Riverwalk and getting ice cream with my own family. And can't forget the amazing, crazy heck of a night with midget wrestling. And that has a lot of memories, many memories and more to come, including where my reception will be held for my wedding later on this year. With that being said, if I had to choose one word that the Lansing Shuffle would be described, it's versatile. And I'm gonna be honest, few places in Lansing can do that. It brings diversity from people in all of the surrounding areas, as well as crowds that usually wouldn't even come to downtown Lansing. And I've seen that personally with not only my friends group, but also in business. In the 3 years, I know Sydney has done a tremendous job in making this place a staple. So imagine what he can do in 5 to 10 years. And with that being said, honestly, it would be foolish for the city to let something like this slip through its fingers, just with the all-around benefit that it can really bring to the community. And hopefully you guys make the right decision based off of that. And again, that is a personal standpoint, but it's the truth. Thank you.
Good evening, members of council. On behalf of Downtown Lansing, Inc., Lansing's downtown management agency, I wanted to speak on behalf of Lansing Shuffle and appreciate council's consideration of putting this before a public vote for Lansing residents. When I first met John and the Detroit Rising Development team, they were considering Lansing as a potential location today, to open what is today known as Lansing Shuffle. John and his team did their homework when they chose to invest in, when they chose to believe in the future of Michigan's downtown, in our riverfront, and in Lansing. Not only did Mr. Hartzell invest in the Lansing Shuffle property and see the potential of our riverfront, he and his team invested in so many other facets of our community. I'll just list a few to be cognizant of time. They provided boxed meals that they packaged and prepared for those in need. They provided in-kind support and partnership with a variety of events and activities agencies across our city, from AOTA's Capital City Break Jam event, Hispanic Heritage Festival, Rivertown Adventures, CTA membership events with Choose Lansing, yoga on the riverfront, volunteer appreciation and recruitment events, not only for DLI, but other agencies, riverfront activations in collaboration with the Community Foundation, Lansing 501, and the list goes on. And I should point out, they have invested in partner not just throughout the downtown community, but throughout our entire city as well. Again, those are just a few of the examples of how they've championed and chosen Lansing. So I appreciate the support and hope that we all will support them the way they've supported us. Thank you.
Good evening, members of council. My name is Lori Baumer. I'm president and CEO of the Community Foundation. Since 2017, the Community Foundation has worked toward recreating our downtown Lansing riverfront to benefit all residents and to attract and retain a talented workforce. So far, the foundation has invested $10 million in 3 riverfront projects: Rotary Park, Play Michigan All Access Playground, and most recently, Fish Ladder Music Park. Rotary Park opened in 2019 and has become a popular destination for residents. Lansing Shuffle plays a critical role in activating Rotary Park and the riverfront. The foundation has worked closely with Jonathan Hartzell, co-owner of Detroit Rising Development, for 3 years now. We are immensely grateful for his investment in Lansing Shuffle, in our city, and in the vitality of our downtown riverfront. Recently, the foundation conducted an anonymous public survey about our developments on the riverfront. 63% of respondents said that they visit Lansing Shuffle weekly or monthly. 42% see our improved downtown vitality as a direct result of riverfront investments. One Lansing resident wrote, "Our riverfront is becoming a gem. It makes me proud to bring my out-of-town friends to see it." If Lansing Shuffle fails, there are bigger negative consequences to our community than to Jonathan Hartzell. Jonathan has been running his business on a very slim margin under his lease with the city. It is possible it will not survive if he cannot own the property. Jonathan has met the terms of his lease and should be allowed to purchase the property. The downtown Lansing riverfront needs Lansing Shuffle to survive and to thrive. Members of City Council, please bring the sale of the property to a vote of our residents. Thank you.
Ivan Drosty, Ward 3. I came out here an hour and a half early today to complain about this, and then you guys tabled it. So, if at some point, President Spatafor, if you could indicate to the room here whether the corresponding item on the City Council agenda is also being tabled, great, thank you. Since I'm here, I might as well talk about it. I really don't see the benefit to the city here. It really seems as though the reason why this proposal is coming forward is because the business owner wants to restructure their loan. If that's the sum total of benefit to the city, then I think it should be pretty obvious that we should reject this. This is city-owned parkland. This is riverfront-owned property. This is really priceless real estate that the city owns. This goes well beyond dollars and cents. If you ask me whether I, as a Lansing resident, would rather have city-owned riverfront parkland that we could do anything with in perpetuity, or a place where I can buy a cheeseburger for $20, it's a pretty easy choice there for me. It really seems like the evaluation here is way undervalued, even far below the city's own investment into this property. So we'd be taking a massive bath just on the sale initially. The property is worth well more than what they're offering. The appraisal is years old at this point. It came before all of the new developments in place. So we need an updated appraisal at the very least. And I really don't understand how, on one side, they can say that the shuffle has brought so much value to downtown and it would hurt us so much to lose it, and then on the other hand, say that they're having trouble even breaking even. How is that consistent? So I really don't think that we as the Lansing residents should be bailing out business owners for failing to run a successful enough business to keep the lights on and taking out irresponsible loans. That's not our problem. That's their problem. And, I don't think we should be on the hook for it. So, thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Seeing none, we will move. Oh, sorry, Deborah.
Good evening, people. Deborah Mulcahy. I ditto what this person just said in reference to the land at the Riverfront Park. Many of you are not of age to have remembered when that was the place where we went to the city market. And it's been a long time. And I think that elimination of the city market there originally was a travesty to all of us. And we need a community market. Many other surrounding communities have them, but we do not. And when you're talking about riverfront property, we don't get that back. And it doesn't get built, though we do have a beach there now. I would ask you to think about that, what it means going forward. I know that it's been tabled now, of what I understand, but I do want you to know my sentiment is this was something that was taken up by the people on a vote. It's like almost 8 years ago, some odd years ago, and it was a no. And if this is something that the city really wanted to sell, it should be advertised for the world of community to buy, because there's a lot of things that people in the community would like to see done with that. So I applaud you for tabling it, but what I have to say also to you is shame on you for putting it forward tonight when you're also dealing with the sale of the Deep Green property. How much more do you think the residents of the city want to take from this chaotic process? Thank you.
Going once? Twice?
Hi, my name is Jason. I host a lot of events at the Lansing Shuffle every Wednesday, and it is still a community space where people get together of all walks of life and congregate, and a large event space that you don't find anywhere else in Lansing. And I think they can do a lot more with it as a private entity than as a public entity. Because it's like, when you rent a house, you don't renovate the house you rent, you renovate the house you buy. And I think they can do a lot more if they purchase the building themselves.
No. Anyone else in the audience? Commissioner Washington.
Thank you, Peter. Jody Washington, Lansing. I'm happy this was tabled. I was horrified that we were not following the process and not giving the Parks Board an opportunity. I will echo what other people have said. If they can't make the business work now on a $2,000 a month lease, that's all they give us, then how are they going to do it with a big loan at their side and having to have to pay us? I'm not necessarily against this property, but what they want to use it for is a travesty for an overpriced food court. I went there Saturday night at 9:30 because I heard this place is just hopping. I counted the people. There were 29 adults, several little children running around, and nobody was doing anything. So hopping, I don't know when it's hopping, but not on Saturday night. This whole thing has been a puzzle to me. We had a person there that was offering $15,000 a month, and our mayor used over 6 figures to evict those people, to turn around and give this entity a $2,000 a month lease. And then he shoves it at us to sell it to these very same people. I don't care how many millions they put in for renovations. That's their build-up. That's their business responsibility. I don't care about their loan. That's their problem, not the taxpayer's problem. Once they sell this, they can do anything with it. If the business rots, which it will, because this is an outdated model, the shuffle model, what are they going to do with the building? They can sell it to somebody else who can put anything there. We have no control. And it's a myth that we take what we get for parkland and put it in other parks. The 2.2 million, I think it was, that we got for Waverly Golf Course, they put it in the community foundation. Not one dime went to the parks. And it's sitting there collecting interest, and time after time, they come to us for another parks millage. I want you council members to dig deep into this. How much do we have in the community foundation? What are we paying for their services? What do they intend to do with this money? Because what Brett pretty much said was, we don't know, we'll let it grow. Fine, quit asking me to pay more property tax for your millage. I just want you to do your due diligence. These people come at you. I know a lot of you are new and don't really know how to dig deep, but please, you are representing the taxpayers and the residents of this city. This is our land, and I don't care about their loan. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, is anyone on virtual participation, City TV? Gotta know. All right, we will move on to item 5, discussion. This is a resolution for the ballot proposal, Act 42026, sale of the Lansing Shuffle Building, 325 Riverfront Drive. As I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we won't be taking action on this, so it will not be on the City Council agenda this evening. But we do have with us this evening Chris Klein and John Hartzell to present on this item, and they will be here for your questions. Do you guys want to join us at the well? Thank you. There is a presentation in front of you as well. And City TV has it, so it'll be on the screen. Yep.
All right, thank you. We do have a presentation. I believe it'll be up on the screen momentarily. But good evening, council members. My name is Chris Klein, the president and CEO of Lansing EDC. With me tonight is John Hartzell of the Lansing Shuffle, and we also have Brett Kaczynski, Director of Parks and Recreation for the city. So we have prepared a short presentation outlining the request, history of the property and current use, operations of the Lansing Shuffle, the terms, commitments, and processes of the sale request. Before we start, John is going to address an item, and then we'll get the presentation underway.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight, and thanks for hearing us. During the due diligence process, we became aware that we were behind on personal property tax from 24 and 25. I took care of 24 today, and we'll be taking care of 25 before we get to the next 20th meeting. We weren't aware of this. We had a change in accounting teams over the last 12 months, and it got lost in information exchange. So now our team's aware of it now, and we're handling that. Just want to make sure I address that before we get too deep into that. So thank you.
So the request is a ballot proposal for the sale of the Lansing Shuffle Building. The city-owned property is located at 325 Riverfront Drive and represents about 0.66 acres of a 3.74 acre parcel. The option to pursue a sale of the property was negotiated in the original lease agreement with the City of Lansing and approved by council in 2020. Importantly, the Lansing Shuffle property does not include any portion of Rotary Park or the adjacent city parking lots. As we'll address later in the presentation, ownership of the property will allow Lansing Shuffle to make critical capital improvements to the building, support long-term stability of the business, and allow them to invest more in our community. And so now I'm going to address just a brief history of the property. From the late 1800s through The 1970s, the site supported mainly industry. It was used for freight and rail, as well as chemical and acid storage on the site. In the 1970s, when those operations ceased, the city acquired the property, and it turned it into Riverfront Park in the early 80s. When the site of the nearby flagging Lansing City Market was redeveloped in the late 2000s, this property was tapped as a location for a new city market building. That building opened in 2010 and was intended to revive the market with modern facilities and a growing downtown population. However, the market struggled to regain the successes of decades past for a variety of reasons, and this all led to declining numbers of tenants in the building and foot traffic, and then a growing city subsidy. So in 2018, the city decided to end the public subsidy, which had gotten to the point it was $80,000 a year to support the building's operations. Then in 2019, the last tenant vacated the building. That same year, several $1 million of improvements to the new Rotary Park were unveiled, and this was a huge step forward for reinvigorating the riverfront. During this time, the city released an RFI for the purposes of finding a partner to reimagine the city market property and turn it into a vibrant space along our riverfront. A few inquiries came in, but these relied heavily on immediate ownership and the need for nearby parking, which could not be accommodated at that time. John and his team at Detroit Rising Development were approached to see if they would be interested in replicating the success of their food hall in Detroit Shipping Company. And so of that, the Lansing Shuffle concept was born, and the proposal was accepted and lease terms approved. Construction on the building commenced in 2021, and the Lansing Shuffle opened in early 2023. I should add that all of this occurred during the COVID pandemic, and there's a lot of uncertainty around the future of restaurants and social spaces, and so really important to understand that context, that willing to go out and work with them to invest in the property, invest in our city. It was a big leap for everybody, and so with that, the approach for this, it was fresh, it was different, it was really built on the strengths of Lansing and the opportunity presented by the property. The proposal presented a space that was flexible, included multiple draws that could bring folks in and stick around. We heard from some of the comments, the multiple uses for the property, and this really encouraged socializing and interaction with the surrounding downtown environment. The concept wouldn't compete with other venues, and it would add to the growing mix of amenities downtown. Most of all, it would bring private investment and be financially self-sustaining and not require an ongoing city subsidy. So the lease that we currently have in place was negotiated to provide terms that understood the risk on both the city side and Lansing Shuffle's. The length of the lease and rate recognizes that the Lansing Shuffle would be investing over $4 million into a building that they did not own, and then would be responsible for all maintenance costs, which would typically be covered by a landlord or at least shared. So Lansing Shuffle maintains the restrooms and drinking fountains, keeping these important facilities open to the public, and they also host a variety of programming and provide space to community groups. Recognizing the level of private investment into the building, but also being cautious on how successful this concept would be, especially coming out of the pandemic, the city and Lansing Shuffle agreed to start with a lease, but to provide the opportunity for a sale to be requested at a later date. And the sale price was determined at that time. I'll now hand it over to John.
Thank you. I just want to kind of just cover what Lansing Shuffle is. I know a lot on the board. We're here when I came to originally. There's new faces as well. So I know not the whole community has been there, but let me just explain. So Lansing Shuffle serves as a food, entertainment, and community gathering space. Right? Our goal always is to try to represent the community at large. Well, we want people to walk in and see people that they recognize in their own house and family working and being in that space. Therefore, it makes people feel community and feel welcome in locations. A lot of our programming is matched behind that. We look for community partners, and we try to find how we can, work together to use our space to showcase what events they're trying to host while supporting the small businesses that are inside that represent Lansing community. We feature 7 restaurants, 6 of which are leased right now, and we're out to lease on the 7th, and 5 shuffleboard courts. And when I came and looked at the space in 2019, 2020, there was a question of, what will make this interesting and different to the area? You can find food a lot of places, but it's a large event space was important, and also the concept of shuffleboard. Maybe it's not a widely known thing, but it's something interesting, unique to Lansing that you won't find in the rest of the state. So it's allowing people an interesting night out and maybe potentially regionally coming to Lansing for that unique experience. So it was an investment in that, which was an addition to the building. The building was 11,000 square feet. Now it's a 15,000 square feet asset. So we added 4,000 square feet of a new pavilion in a floodplain zone. So part of our original build out was one path, and we had to delay that build out because of the flood zone and working through Eagle to get that approved to build that extra space. Part of this, when I was approached, was to continue the momentum of the riverfront activations, adding to the flourishing lifestyle amenities of downtown, the investment by Community Foundation, the Rotary Park, and the Riverwalk. They felt like they needed something that was vibrant and bringing more people down, again, in a diverse way. I believe the economic development team from Lansing had come to our Detroit venue and saw the diversity and the activation and the experience in an area that had been vacant for 30 years that we had provided, and they wanted that activation in our space. And I'll say, as an operator, that comes at a cost. We operate to draw and build and grow community spaces. When we actually built Detroit Shipping Company, we weren't developers. We just asked ourselves, how can we help invest in the city of Detroit, a place we loved? And we ended up building a space that was vibrant and really showcased the community around. And when Lansing came to me, that's what we tried to interpret the space as. So I know we look at these developers coming to take and do, but we really try to invest in the area. We care about placemaking, we care about third space and dwell time, so that helps activate the other pieces around and helps people feel community in the area. So it's really our focus on a lot of the developments we do. Lansing Shuffle hosts a wide range of programming. I think it was brought up by some of the community that spoke, but we really try to partner with local groups, Mikey Austin, John Rowe, Community Foundation, Downtown Lansing Inc., LEAP, a lot of groups we've worked with, a lot of 5K runs on the Riverwalk. We open the building up, give water and bathroom access. There's no income for that. It's just the opening because no one's buying drinks and food at 9 in the morning, 8 in the morning. But it's part of helping grow this community and creating a more vibrant downtown area and riverfront activations. So why Lansing Shuffle works, a lot of this is redundant, but it's diverse dining in one location, social gaming, entertainment, welcoming public gathering space. It appeals to families, professionals, and visitors. Again, trying to draw regional to the area, spending dollars in Lansing that might go elsewhere and fold out into Grand Rapids or Detroit. We try to bring people here. So we're just one activation joining that community. We're the third space, essentially. Your main hubs are the Lugnut Stadium and the Convention Center, and the goal out of having a vibrant place next to that is to get that dwell time and get that experience outside of those main uses, so people remember that a little longer. Maybe they stay longer in the area and spend more dollars, right, where you're capturing in your tax revenue from the spends. So it's a shared success, right? It's revitalizing key waterfront sites in partnerships with the city. It's aligning with riverfront and economic goals. And I believe we've done that. We've hosted many markets throughout the years on pop-ups on the weekends, partnering with the parks to allow us to have small vendors come in and sell their goods in the space. We've done it annually. We carried the riverfront music for the last 3 years while there's disinvestment and there wasn't money in the space. We carried out of our own budget to run what's called the Summer Music Program on the river. This year there's other groups actually investing in that. It's going to be a really nice dynamic summer because we have multiple entities actually spending on that. Part of our spend in the first 2 years, we actually hired an events programming person, and their job was to organize and find out who's doing what in the city and how can we activate them in our space, not as a paid space, but as an activation for the community to let people understand who we are and what we are and how they can use our space to best grow that experience. So our goal is supporting Lansing growth platforms for local food entrepreneurs, regional draw, bringing visitors downtown, increasing foot traffic for nearby businesses. We're part of the social district, which isn't used widely, but it's there, and we're a part of that piece to help activate that, because you need multiple spaces to actually generate a district. And again, strengthening the riverfront activation. So why consider a sale now? So operations are stable, and the concept has proven to be successful in this location. That was part of the board's request of me when I first came, because when I came, I wanted to buy the building at the time. The building as is was a pole barn, essentially, built to just house what was inside, but not actually any infrastructure. If you remember some first iterations, there was a second floor inside. When the reality is there's no structure in there to carry that load, so we would have to bring all the infrastructure in. This would have been a $6-7 million construction to do that. That's how we ended up deciding to do the structure outside. It was just an affordable way to get things done. But the building was missing a lot of infrastructure that needed to be put in to have this use. And this is kind of to some comments earlier about lease rate and all that. Essentially, we were renting an as-is building that was a barn. Didn't have the infrastructure for the use that would bring this vibrant experience. And so the conversation was, we'll invest the $4.2 million and carry that load, so that the landlord didn't have to invest it. Because what would happen in other structures is landlord would say, I want your use. And we'd say, can you put in hoods? Can you put in this infrastructure that will stay with the building, and we'll pay you a higher rent? Because how loan structures work, the debt stays with a guarantor with no asset behind it. You guys own the asset that I'm investing in. I risk greatly for that on that agreement, that we would assess the property pre my investment, because the landlord, the city, didn't invest in it. I'll do that investment. I'll take that risk. But an agreement that we at least ask the public, can I buy it? That's all I asked, was can I buy it from them? Allow me to show that I do a quality job here and that the community wants me to stay. So the lease structure was set up, again, as an as-is, and I did the investment there for carrying a bit larger debt. So why do I ask for this? Is when you carry a leasehold debt, they amortize it, meaning they take your interest over the period of the first term of the loan, so 10 years. So it's accelerated. So if you bought your house, I assume nobody here has a 10-year loan on their house. You have a 25 to 30-year loan, and it allows the payment to be affordable. For us, it's accelerated. In our Detroit project, we have more debt, but we own the property, and we pay $140,000 less in debt payments in that site. And that's really the difference on us being able to invest in some of the shortfalls of the infrastructure in the space. Our patio is kind of as is. We lost budget on the cost of construction. Post-COVID was difficult on that, so the prices went up. So we had some shortfalls on some of the investment we wanted to put. Part of this loan restructuring is to have more cash flow to be able to actually finish out some of the build pieces and the environment we wanted to create. All right. So I know there was some conversations about, once this is sold, there won't be any controls from the city. There's a lot of negotiations that will happen. The request right now is just for the public to be able to allow for a vote or for a sale. It's not for negotiated terms. That really sits in your guys' department, the city management team and you guys. And there's a lot of commitments that I feel like our group's already fulfilled per the original round, and then we'll continue to fulfill throughout. But also, in that negotiation, there's a lot of options of easements and abilities to control future uses through negotiations that could be done at the proper time. Currently, Lansing Shuffle covers utilities for Rotary Park, the gas, water, and electric, which we'd be willing to continue and carry those expenses. We keep the bathrooms and access to clean water to a lot of the community that uses the Riverwalk, and we open that and allow them in. And that was a big piece of discussion during the original agreements, and I'd like to say that we're proud that we've fulfilled those. We also believe that, I'm just saying retain public access, sorry. Part of the original negotiations and why we asked for the appraisal based on the investment of the existing building, because the asset didn't have very much involved in it. It was a depreciated asset with not much infrastructure. So we were agreeing to take that debt and that personal guarantee and that financial burden on investing in the community and the space. If we didn't get hurt by it later, by having an appraisal done post our investment, therefore being hit twice on the negative, paying for the investment and then paying it again for our investment that we put in. Didn't make sense to us. And at the time, council saw that to be a fair negotiation. I think I covered a lot of this, right? All right. Well, thank you, guys.
Yeah, so just really briefly, wanted to go over the process for the sale. As was mentioned, this was presented to the Lansing Planning Commission on March 3rd. That was recommended unanimously. It did go before the Lansing Parks Board on March 11th, and the item was tabled. And now we're here before you all when the time comes to put the property sale to a public vote. And so if that's approved, then the ballot language is submitted. The question would be placed on the August ballot, and then if approved by public vote, the sale agreement would then be presented to City Council for consideration. If approved, the sale agreement may be executed, and then once any of those conditions identified in the sale agreement are satisfied, the parties may close. So just want to outline the process thus far, just so folks, again, understand this is to get it before the public vote, and it's not necessarily to talk about any of the negotiations of the terms, but really appreciate John being open about that and making sure that they put those commitments at the forefront. That concludes our presentation.
Okay. Are there questions? I see Councilmember Garza.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening. Thanks for being here this evening. Just a few questions regarding the sale price, and I see Jennifer Seisberger made mention that this would bring more revenue in, additional, $4,900. So your payment would go from $2,000 a month to $2,408 a month, roughly. With the $4.2 million invested, it just seems like that's not very much tax dollars captured by the city. Is there a reason why the property tax isn't worth more than that?
Well, I'm not the assessor. I don't know how they assess that.
No, I understand that, but I mean, is anybody from the administration can discuss that? And Mark, are you able to answer that? I mean, it just seems $28,000 a year property tax seems pretty low for having $4.2 million invested in it, and with a appraisal back in 2018 of $720,000 as well.
The short answer is no, I'm not able to, but I can make that.
Okay. And if this does go to the vote, what would be in the city? My understanding would get the first bite to buy it back. What would we be buying it for? I mean, is there any price that you guys settled on, or would it go with what the current value is in 2020 or 30, whenever it ends up going for sale, if it does go for sale?
Yeah, and so to the first part about the assessment, that was provided by the assessor as part of the review package for the Act 33 process. Just like any other property's been assessed. I mean, that's been pretty consistent throughout. That'd be the determination from the assessor on what that value would be. Regarding the sale price, again, looking at the whole purpose is to be able to finance additional improvements on the property. There's some capital improvements that are needed to refinance, their existing debt. Looking at how that might be repurchased, there's several ways to go about it, but it would have to not interfere. John would probably be better to speak to all this, but to interfere with their ability to finance. So the city was to say to buy it back at the same cost. When they took out additional debt, they wouldn't be able to get it financed. So that's a negotiation. Obviously, it would have to be part of that sale agreement, again, if it's approved to even be sold by the public.
Okay. And I guess my last question would be is, if this sale doesn't go through, do you see the shuffleboard company still staying afloat?
I'm sorry, Ms. Lefspire, what?
If this sale does not go through, do you still see the shuffleboard company being successful?
So I think it was mentioned earlier, I guess define success. I think we're very successful in the sense that we're activating a space and really creating a vibrant riverfront. Will it make it hard? Yeah, it's very difficult. We have a very high expense line. So post-COVID, expenses and operations, someone mentioned a $20 burger. Expenses have risen in food and beverage operation, and so we're very flat on our income level in the space. It's important to reinvest. In that $4.2 million, we didn't actually update every system in the building. We carried some HVAC systems, we carried roof lines that are now approaching 16 years old. So there needs to be a reinvestment coming into the property. So it's paramount for us to make this change because it allows for liquidity.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Garza? I'm sorry, Councilmember Hussein.
It's all good. To Loretta's earlier point that I wanted to touch on something Jeremy just said. We have to be clear. Even in the presentation, we said that this is not Rotary Park. In fact, the land does sit on Rotary Park. As a matter of fact, the outline is even included in your presentation, and there would have to be a parcel split, correct? So this does sit on park property. I just want to make sure that folks are clear about that aspect of it. Secondly, with regard to Councilman Garza, I had the same question because in 2018, when this was appraised, the true cash value was $720,000. So that's how we ended up with the assessed value or state equalized value of $360,000. The number we got from our city assessor is in fact the number that they established back in 2018. My understanding, Greg, I don't even know how that's legal, frankly, because I would assume, like even on a sale, we talk about sale of property, we talk about uncapped property taxes, and the fact that at that point, the SEV or the assessed value has to be 50% of the true market or true cash value of that particular property, which in 2026 is much higher than $720,000. I get that we're limited in terms of what we can sell to them based on a lease agreement, but that is not the true cash value of that particular property. So wouldn't it have to be 50% of, I would assume that would have to be, you know where I'm going.
Well, I want to make sure that I'm answering the
Yeah.
question correctly, because the thing that and I apologize, I did not dive deeply into how the assessor assessed the property hypothetically for a sale. So I'm not entirely sure, like a lot of people are asking, but how did we get to this number? I don't know. I know the methods by which an assessor would get to that, but I'm not the assessor, and in fact, you don't want me to be the assessor. You want the assessor to do that.
Right.
So I don't know exactly how they got to that number.
Pretty sure.
You're correct that if the property sold, it would be uncapped, it would get assessed fresh, and then an assessed value would be reached, and it's based on one of three approaches or a hybrid of those three. And I can go into that, but that's very boring, and I don't think it answers your question.
Great. So we obviously have questions that we need answered. I'm pretty sure I'm correct, but maybe I'm wrong. That being said, a couple others. In terms of, I think you touched on it a little bit in the presentation in terms of the $953,000. So that is the appraised value from 2018 plus what? Are those inflationary adjustments? What is that? How did we get to the 953?
Yep, so there's the 720 from the 2018 appraisal. There was, it's a portion of some of the assistance provided through the Brownfield Authority for work on the building and surrounding property. And then there is a return on equity on that. So there's about $172,000 of city capture that went into the property, and then the return on equity is about $62,000. So that's where we get the $953,000.
With regard to, so in terms of sale proceeds, those dollars would come back to council for appropriation. What in terms of the tax dollars that we have been discussing, those would come to general fund, or they would be captured by the TIFA?
Sale proceeds?
No, not sale proceeds, taxes.
Taxes would be captured by the TIFA.
Okay.
It's within the TIFA district, yeah.
Got it. So none of those dollars would come into the general fund. But with regard to the $24,000 a year we're receiving right now in lease payments, those are general fund dollars, or those go into parks?
They go to parks,
Go
the
to parks.
current lease.
So we would be taking $24,000 from parks and then putting $28,000 a year into the TIFA district, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay. With regard to, and I'm really glad that we were looking at tabling this too, and I could be wrong, but I believe that, I was just doing a little bit of research, I believe that the last official date we can actually get this onto, let me see, I think it's Tuesday, no, it's not. It's, yeah, Tuesday, May 12th, right, 4 p.m. So we have meetings on the 4th and the 11th. So I think we have time to get this right, make sure all of our questions are answered, make sure the park board has an opportunity to opine, because even though we are not required necessarily to run it through the park board, I know that Act 33 review does require planning commission consideration. I think it is absolutely the right thing to do, to have an opinion from them. And I really appreciate it. Looked at some of the minutes also. I've talked to a number of people that went to the last meeting, and it sounds like they're really doing their due diligence, which is exactly why we appoint people and confirm people to that particular board. So with that, I have additional questions, but I'll make sure that those are kind of channeled to the appropriate people, and that we're ready to vote whenever this comes back before the body. Thank you.
Thank you. Other, Councilmember Martinez.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I have a question first for our wonderful Parks Director, Brett. Do you see this sale negatively impacting our park system in any way?
No, I think individuals see the shuffle right now and how they remember back to when we didn't have anything in there. And they see that connection. For instance, the promises that were made are the promises kept. We kind of saw this with Rotary Park. A beach will not work down there. A lighted forest will not work. Why a fireplace? And then you go to Play Michigan. You will not have people come downtown to a playground. We heard all of that. And this is part of that system. This is part of the riverfront. This is part of the investment that the Community Foundation made. This is part of the investment that John made here. And so I see this as a vital part of the events that are held down there. There's going to be more events that happen down there. Rotary Park was a key part for us in COVID, and it has only grown since then. And so, yeah, I do not see a negative impact. I absolutely see that this is a use for people. Oh, here's the other one. Shuffleboard will not work down there. You know, so this is all promises made and promises kept. And where do we go from here in the future to continue to grow? And I think this is a part of that.
Thank you. And I know I can see here in our cow packet the map of the specific piece of land, right? So I don't know if that would help the public for clarification, the differentiation in those lines. I did have a quick question for the city attorney. This is zoned as downtown core. So for the sale, if it were to happen, the new owner would still have to operate within those parameters, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, well, I just wanted to thank you all for being here tonight, and thank Chris for putting together this presentation, and John, thanks for being a great community partner. It sounds like the question you're asking us is if we're interested in practicing democracy and allowing people to vote. Is that correct?
I love that idea.
Thank you.
When so Councilmember Cost and Hussein, I was going to just point out one real quick process point. When this does eventually get to a vote, the vote would be placing it on the ballot, and there were some questions around the table from the audience too about specifics of the sale, and I think I don't think we've spent a lot of time negotiating a sale at this point except for the price. Is that correct? All that, the fine tuning would come after if the voters were to approve it. Okay, wanted to verify that. Councilmember Cost?
Thank you, President Spatafor. Just to make sure I heard you correctly, you said that you have unpaid taxes still?
Yeah, there's personal property tax on a business.
Okay.
And we were unaware that we had missed some. We just went through some accounting changes twice in 1 year, and that data kind of got lost in the shuffle. And then actually during due diligence, we were I said shuffle, it's kind of funny. Sorry. We were brought to our attention that we're behind on Friday. I heard about that. So today I actually paid all of 24, and then we plan on paying the rest of it before we get to our next meeting.
Do you know if the Planning Commission was aware of that when they passed the unanimous vote? Maybe this is for Chris, LEDC.
I'm not sure if they're aware of it. It wasn't presented at the time. Again, finding that out, I'm not sure if that's necessarily within the purview of the decision, but yeah,
I
it
would
came out
hope
Friday.
unpaid taxes would be part of it.
Yep.
So,
As John
do you
mentioned,
know how much the shuffle cost the city in 2010 to build?
I believe it was 1.7.
1.7, and we're selling this for what, 900,000?
That was the price negotiated as part of the lease, yeah.
Okay. And I don't know, do you have colleagues in Grand Rapids? Do you know what their riverfront property is going for right now?
I don't know.
Anybody?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
So riverfront property in Detroit or Grand Rapids, do we know what that's going for right now?
As far as that goes, I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into that, whether it's in floodplain, whether it's out of floodplain. So I know, you know, we have similar things with the Detroit Riverfront Conservancy along there, or how contaminated or not contaminated. So all those things factor in.
All right, thank you. And so it sounds like you signed this lease agreement in 2021 when prices were already on the rise, because we keep hearing COVID. So prices, because I had to live through this too, and my pay has not kept up with inflation and the rising costs either. So I understand that things are more expensive. But it looks like you bought this in 2021 and started the renovations then. So you knew it was going to be expensive, more expensive, because the prices were already rising, correct? Okay, I'm a bit baffled because I'd heard a part in there where you ran out of money on your plan and couldn't do some of those things. I guess I'm struggling to understand this concept of a loan and what business plan you presented to them, because the one you're telling us you have right now with this loan, you're barely getting by, and I don't understand. It's not computing in my brain how that was a business plan that was presented to loan this money to you, and now we want to turn around and sell this property. I'm not connecting all the dots.
That's a great question. You layered a lot of things in there, and you brought up one thing. Rising costs, and you haven't received any more income on yourself. So imagine you as a representative of your whole community, right? So that same thing's going on. So people have less money to spend. But then also in an operational space, cost of goods are more. So just before they get in construction, just in a pure operation of food and beverage, going from a $15 burger to an $18 burger, squeezing that margin for that small vendor, while the community at large around you has less dollars to spend because they didn't increase in their revenue. So the revenue source isn't as strong as it was in our projections. Part of that was because of changing government, changing cost of things and how the world's operating around us. So you got to navigate that as a business. Part of the construction costs was this is also a union labor town, so the cost of construction here was a little higher than it was in other previous builds, which is okay. It's part of it, and we honored that. We were a prevailing wage project, and we honored what was in the community commitment to make that happen. So that part kind of carried our cost a little higher than we had expected. So all those combined equal out to a 2026 scenario where you have a little bit higher construction costs, a little bit higher debt, and less revenue because of economic strains that you mentioned.
Okay. Chris, just because I wasn't on council, I'm not sure if you were at the LEDC yet or not. When we sold Waverly Golf Course for, I think, $2.2 million, that was mentioned. Do you know what economic development has happened on that property since we've sold it?
In the township, there was the
it
original
was
proposal.
parkland, right? City parkland.
Yeah, but
Okay.
it was city parkland in the township. Since that point, there's some development along Saginaw, but the residential
Car wash?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, so car wash. I agree with my colleague that it sounds like democracy is in action to get this on the ballot. But I also have concerns that people don't get, there's no money to argue either side of this. And people are gonna see a ballot initiative, hey, let's sell this land and here's money that's gonna go into the city. It looks good to me. I have some real concerns about selling this parkland, especially at this price, so cheap, on the riverfront, or even putting it on the ballot. I have to be frank that you read the ballot, and there is not a long explanation there of what it is you're voting yes or no for. And we actually saw this in the last election when we had the hotel tax, which would have benefited the ballpark and not cost taxpayers anything, fail, which makes no sense to me. But what does make sense is maybe that people are not understanding the language that's on the ballot because it's not fully complete. And that is a concern bringing this forward to a ballot initiative. I think it's also a concern, no offense, I don't know you. I don't care if it was an error by your accounting folks or not. None of us can sit up here and owe the city any money. That's part of the vetting process when we run for, even before we run for office. And to owe money to the city and then say, I paid it today and gee willikers, I'm gonna pay the rest before we get that final vote, we hope you vote yes. That is concerning to me. Because once you sell parkland and you do away with it, it's done forever. There's no going back. And Greg and I had this discussion, the city attorney, earlier today, where I asked, while not likely, if we were to sell this, in that sale agreement, essentially, we could have a sale agreement with no guardrails. However unlikely, that is still a possibility, where that property, once you have it, if you got a sale agreement that had really great terms, there could be condos there in 2 years. The Lansing Shuffle could cease to exist. That's a lot of concerns for me, and I want to echo one of the things that I continue to hear in the community, because it is a valid point. Your financing rates have nothing to do with me as a taxpayer, and it's not my problem or the folks I represent in the First Ward's problem. And you've mentioned it at meetings outside of here, and it's been mentioned here tonight. The interest rate is not my concern. I can't disagree with that. And so I don't see any point in even tabling this. I think that we should end this now. You start dumping parkland, I mean, it's not just parkland. This is riverfront parkland where you have a tower going up with thousands of new people. And we're giving it away. I mean, it is dirt cheap. That's it.
Could I comment on that? And thank you for your thoughts and your effort. I love it. You commented about 5 or 6 different items. One is the public knowledge. Again, this is going to go to the public, right? So it's really important for me to get in front of the public and let them know. We plan on hosting 4 to 5 public events at Shuffle, and we would love for you all to come and bring who you want, and we'll have open conversations and discussions and put up some charrettes and ask with all public comment and issues and say, let's all talk about what our problems and that. So that'll be one thing that we're planning on hosting once we have the opportunity to go to vote.
With all due respect, we've done the charrettes. I live on Michigan Avenue. We did the charrettes for 3 years.
I interrupted you during your questioning. He's addressing your questions.
Okay.
Please let him finish.
I appreciate the passion. Number 2 is on selling parks land. At some point in 2008, 9, or 10, you decided you wanted to transform this space and be kind of a center point for your parks community. The community built on an elevated platform, a a pole barn to represent an old farmer's market. I think they were trying to replace 110,000 square feet with 11,000 square feet, and it didn't work. It was self-managed, and it didn't resonate what the problems were that they were trying to represent, the old history that was there. Also, it was pigeoned in a parking lot that they didn't own, that charges all night. The rest of the parking lots in town are free after 6 p.m. The actual parking in that space is still charged till after 6, which is a big community issue. That's why a lot of the developers didn't want to deal with this space. I came in, we made agreements that we're going to help and invest in this community and help grow this space. So we took that challenge on, and I'm absolutely happy with that challenge. So a big part. You also mentioned on the taxes and how we're addressing that. I'm not sure how the assessor works. We're obviously going to be part of this community and investing in this community. We're not walking away. We can't just take a $4.2 million investment, tear it down to build condos. It's really, at best, a 15,000 square foot flat space. I'm not sure what everyone thinks can all of a sudden happen. This is all speculative and if come, and if you live in that world, and we say, hey, at 1% chance all these things could happen, well, we just go wild with our imaginations. The reality is there's a major investment, a major commitment by a group that has partnered with the city to bring that vision to fruition, right? And now they're saying, hey, we made a commitment to invest in this town, and all we asked was that you guys look at us after 2 years and say, did you perform? And would you please put it to the public vote to allow us to go ask them for their commitment to us and see that we gave them a commitment to buy this property, to support that investment, which would only further investment. There's no fiscal reality that you turn and take this and scrape it and try to do something else because there isn't enough square footage to make anything viable beyond what's there. So our commitment's been there from the beginning. We've proved what we said we were going to do, and we did it. I believe during construction, there were some council members who called me and said, hey, we've heard that some of the union labor wasn't getting a fair shot. And we said, okay, we'll go right back out and rebid this. And we rebid this. And the project came back $1 million higher, but we honored that because we're committed to this town. We heard it was a union town, and we heard that union people like to party and drink and hang out. And we said, we love that concept. Let's be part of that. So we can go on speculation of what could be, but I can only say my record is what we did do. And we fulfilled everything that was asked of us. And now all we're asking from this group is to say, hey, he just wants the public to vote on this. And I want the opportunity to go to the public and host them, again, with you all there, and let's ask all the questions, and let's have all these conversations, and let's let the people show up and have this. That's all I'm asking, but thank you.
Can I speak now? Thank you.
Yes.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Why are we even discussing this? He said they're not going anywhere. They're going to stay here in the community. So why are we taking a worse deal? Why not leave the deal how it is? We're getting the rent. It's cheap. Heck, that's cheaper than some people paying rent per month for 1,600 square foot home here in Lansing. I appreciate that you made the point you're not leaving, so I'm not sure why we're even having this discussion then.
Councilmember Hussain.
Yeah, my comments are probably a bit dated now, but I wanted to speak to, and I really appreciate Ms. Martinez, or Councilwoman Martinez and the Democracy in Action piece. I absolutely agree. I love putting things before the voters. I love having folks get objective information, and then I have an ability to wade in. But we're setting the tone even with the resolution, right? And so, I mean, if you look at, as an example, the third whereas, it says sale of the properties in the best interest of the city. The property is not necessary for city operations, and the city will no longer incur the expenses associated with maintenance of the property. So we're kind of setting the tone in terms of what the city's position is going to be as this thing is, considered and vetted by the community. This is our resolution. This is our language. This shows that we as a body actually believe that this sale is in the best interest of the city. And so if we're going to support this language, of course we need to truly believe this. And at this point, I'm concerned. As an example, without a 2026 appraisal and without really understanding what the true cash value of that property is, I would struggle supporting particularly this language because, and I appreciate, the couple of years that you've been in operation. I think you guys have been good actors, and we appreciate that. But there has been some issues with, as an example, maintaining league play with regard to the shuffleboard concept. there have been some issues with vendor turnover. You guys have acknowledged that. And, some of that is, you said, natural cycle. Some of it, you had some difficulty post-COVID. We understand that. But I do worry that this might not be a viable model moving forward. And then, we've heard a lot about the rights of first recusal, but frankly, that means nothing for the city because we would have a new appraisal. We would be asked to pay true cash value, and we could never, as a city, actually afford that. So you actually would, in fact, be able to sell to who you want to sell to, because the city won't be able to activate that. I mean, let's just be honest. So there's a number of concerns. And again, when I talk about the language in this resolution, what we have done in the past when we put things before the electorate, and so having that kind of experience, then we've seen even tax dollars, frankly, be used in such a way where it might not rise to the threshold legally of actually supporting something and actually advocating for something, but it certainly implies support, and it gets really into that kind of that murky area, which is, and I really appreciate also the acknowledgement that the ballot language is always so succinct, and half the time people don't even know what they're voting for, right? Particularly on the bottom of the ballot issue. So number of concerns, and then with regard to the democracy in action, democracy in action is not always just putting things in front of people. It's also making sure that we are doing our job, reading our emails, listening to our voicemails, engaging out in the public. And so I'm hoping that we take that same energy, that same position on a number of issues that are coming up that the public has weighted in on very, very heavily, and basically given us our marching orders. So yeah, democracy in action. I look forward to seeing that play out at this dais in the months to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Martinez.
Yes, I just want to say thank you again for being a great community partner and intentionally taking up space in our city. I think you mentioned in one of your comments that other developers wouldn't touch this. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Can you elaborate on why?
I don't want to say names, the community members and all that, but it was just brought to my attention the issues of a blocked-in space that has hard access, right? You can't get there to and fro on a walkway with the pedway come across. It locks on one side, you can't get there. It's one-way streets that they were county or state run. They're 45 miles per hour one-way directions, so it's hard to even find. There's no visibility from many points. Shiawassee Bridge is the only point you can really see it from unless you're standing right across the river. Otherwise, the pedway blocks it from Michigan Avenue. So it's really a hard landlocked little space. And then parking is a hindrance. It's been a hindrance from the beginning. We got a lot of complaints about, why is parking so much? Why can't I park here? And so there's a lot of pieces that they came to me and said, I wouldn't do this if not. And our whole development team is all about doing community growth and investing in spaces we feel like we could help and support. In a Detroit shipping company, we did a YMCA in Livonia that was obsolete, turned that into a turf and pickleball space where people can come and actually activate. The neighborhood school comes there. The local Livonia Sparks party, we actually activate most of the food and bev on that space. Right now, we're building a 120,000 square foot sports complex in Southfield, and trying to support. They're trying to get third space. They're trying to activate and bring in small retail, and they need what we have here of the Lansing Shuffle or the Convention Center and the Lugnut Stadium. So we're helping that piece there. So our goal generally is to grow third space and really grow community, and that's where our investment's at.
I don't know if this question is for council leadership or for the attorney, but if this were to go to the public and if the public voted yes on it, would we by resolution as a council be able to determine if the proceeds could go to Parks and Rec, or how would that function?
Generally speaking, it would be the funds. I mean, I'd have to look and see exactly how the land was purchased. I think it was purchased with a federal grant long before it became parkland. Sometimes funds are required to go to a specific area if that's where they came from. I don't think that's the case here, but I can look into that. Money that would come in as general fund surplus, essentially. And at times, I know, like when the Red Cedar Golf Course was sold, it was put into the resolution. There was essentially an agreement between administration and council, so the administration's sale resolution included language that the proceeds would go to parks. But otherwise, it would come to general fund as surplus, and then, or I guess that's fund balance, and then at the next budget, it would get allocated.
Okay, but we could explore what kind of opportunity would arise for us to intentionally invest back into our parks and rec system. And I was here when it was not as shuffling and hopping as it is now, so I appreciate the investment. And as a First Ward resident and an at-large council member, I think this is an interesting question and an interesting conversation to have, so thank you so much.
Thank you all for being here. There were a number of questions that I think we're going to make sure we get to the right people with some answers. The very soonest we'll bring this back will be the 20th of April. We won't be on the 6th. So at the very soonest, the 20th of April will be when we talk about this. But we'll coordinate with council and make sure that the Parks Board has had a chance to review it and things like that. But the soonest it will be is the 20th. I think the next Parks Board meeting is the 8th of April. Someone on the Parks Board want to know? Wednesday. Oh, it's this week. Okay. Thank you very much. We are going to move on. Vice President Palavanagu.
Thank you. I move pursuant to MCL 15.268C of the Open Meetings Act, I hereby move that we recess into closed session for strategy and negotiation sessions connected with the negotiation of a wage reopener pursuant to a collective bargaining agreement between the City of Lansing and the Supervisory Unit of the Capital City Labor Program as requested by the city, and that we be joined by Dennis Parker, Elizabeth O'Leary, and Mark Lawrence.
That is a proper motion. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Cost? Yes. Councilmember Hussein? Yes. Councilmember Navarez Martinez? Yes. Councilmember Garza?
Yes.
Councilmember Palavanagu?
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez? Yes. Councilmember Carter? Yes. Motion carries 8-0.
At 6:46, we're in closed session. Good evening. At 6:53, we are back in open session. Vice President Palavanaglou.
Thank you, President Spatafor. In closed session, we discussed the resolution of the collective bargaining agreement for the Capital City Labor Program, CCLP, Supervisory Unit for the period covering July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2026. Some of the changes in that agreement include an additional step that has been added to the increased wages, and this added step 4 is 3% higher than the currently highest level of step 3. Retroactive as of July 1st, 2025, there will be a 2% wage increase across the board, and retroactive to January 1st, 2026, there will be a 1% increase of wages across the board, and also a $750 signing bonus is included in this bargaining agreement. This will help with retention efforts and to keep us competitive.
Thank you, Vice President Palavanaglou. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll? I'm sorry, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. That's next time. All those opposed? Nay. Motion carries. It is 6:54. We are adjourned. And for those of you waiting for the City Council, we're going to take about a 10-minute break. We'll be back here at 7:05.